Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. John Campea here, editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. I'm on vacation. I'm actually up at my friend Rod's place up in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, for Christmas vacation. And I went to go see The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies for the third time, actually, with Anna, my mom. And something really stood out to me that had kind of been itching in my brain the first couple of times I saw it, but it really stands out to me now. And I wanted to take a quick couple of minutes here and talk about what I see as the five major problems with The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Now, before I start getting into those problems, I should mention up front, I actually really like the movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's the best of the three. And while I like all three of these films, I'm going to say I don't think any of them are as good as any of the original Lord of the Rings films, but, you know, that's a really high standard, whatever. I still really like the film. Like I said, saw it 3 times in theaters, but it has a number of significant problems that, you know, I'm the type of guy that even if I like a movie, even if I love a movie, I'm not going to stick my fingers in my ears and go, yeah, I don't want to hear anything bad about it. No, I recognize the things that are bad about the films that I love. And these are some of the things that I think they really could have done better and that were significant problems. Number 1, the conclusion of the Smaug storyline. Look, I understand at the end of the second film, that one line of Smaug heading towards Lake Town and saying, I am fire, I am death, screen goes black. That was a pretty cool ending. But the problem is that cool ending was a year ago. This movie picks up with Smaug already attacking the city. And here's the thing about the climax, whether it's the climax to a movie or the climax to a scene or the punchline to a joke. It's all about the setup. It's about, do you get emotionally invested so that the climax has its effect? And what we ended up having in this movie was this climax scene when we haven't had the setup for over a year. And it kind of felt, right from the beginning, really disjointed to me. Like, if they had just continued on in the second film with Smaug attacking the city and then ending with the death of Smaug, there would have been a lot more emotional satisfaction, a lot more emotional investment. And instead, I felt like I was walking in the middle of a conversation. So when Smaug dies and he shoots him down, it kind of feels like an afterthought in many ways. Because, like I said, it's been like a full year since we had the emotional setup to it. So that's the first major problem. The second major problem I have, and there are many smaller problems as there are in every film. These are just the 5 major ones. My second problem, though, is the conclusion of the Azog the Defiler storyline. Look, much like the whole thing with Smaug, we are set up in this movie to have this big, epic confrontation between Thorin and Azog. And that's great, but like the Smaug thing, there is no emotional investment. Why? Because we haven't seen these two together in a scene together in 2 years since the first film. Like, you set up that there's clearly anonymity and there's clearly some problems between these two guys. They really don't like each other. I get it. But you haven't fed that storyline to us. You haven't nourished that conflict for us. And it's been 2 years. So then finally, when you come to the point where it's these two warriors, these two kings, standing on that icy, scale landscape there, getting ready to do battle, there wasn't the emotional tension that we should have had because you didn't spend any time in the second film or in this film having these guys sharing screen time together, building that angst between them and setting it all up. And so emotionally for me, that felt really flat. Whereas when we came to that final battle and the two of them were standing on the icy plain on the water, you should have had chills going up and down your spine before, they started going at it. But instead it was just, okay, here they are. This is expected. But once again, no emotional payoff since the first film. The third major problem I had with The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, is the sudden, quick, fast turn of Thorin Oakenshield to evil, to the dragon sickness, as they call it. Because when the second film ends, he's still the heroic Thorin Oakenshield, and all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, in the beginning of the third film, he's completely gone mad. He's like completely nuts, just like that. There's no transition. There's no moving from one thing into the next, and so it was very jarring to me as an audience member. Also, it wasn't the Arkenstone, because they did a lot of things with Smaug talking about how the Arkenstone is what drove Thorin's dad or grandfather mad, But that he doesn't have the Arkenstone. So how do they explain him going crazy? The dragon sickness. When you had a serpent hoarding on that gold for so long, creates dragon sickness. Okay, but Gandalf says, no, it affects everybody. Nobody can resist dragon sickness except for a very few, talking about Bilbo. Except there are 13 other dwarves in there, and none of them seem to be affected by this whatsoever. Only Thorin gets the dragon sickness that just hit him all of a sudden out of nowhere 100%. And when you fail to lead up to it, the redemption of Thorin, when he finally comes to his senses, it loses any emotional impact. That seems to be the big theme here, is emotional impact. Because there's no falling into this madness, his suddenly coming out of it didn't really have any sense of bravado to it. It didn't have any sense of heroism to it. It didn't have the redemption because we never felt the fall in the first place. So anyway, the sudden turn of Thorin was a big thing. Number 4, and this is the one that really bothers me the most. The entire character of Alfred. Alfred, okay? This minor little character who is just the master's little Weasley. He's the Hobbit trilogy's version of Wormtongue, okay? Except 10 times more annoying and apparently being given 10 times more screen time. This is a character where when all the people of Lake Town come out of the water, and, he has that little thing, give me that blanket, blah, blah, blah. Okay, have that scene, and then have the bowman save him saying, hasn't there been enough death today? That should have been the end of that character. We shouldn't have seen him again anytime else. But instead, for some reason, Peter Jackson, a master filmmaker, thought, you know what he is? Alfred is this movie's Jar Jar Binks. That's what he is. And he keeps popping up, and every time he pops up, he says something stupid and annoying. And guess what? It's not funny. It would have been one thing that was funny. But as he's going, he's using modern pop culture kind of terms. When he grabs a kid, won't anybody think of the children? It's like, is he really saying that? This is stupid. And then, bravery, not many men can pull off a corset. It's like, really? And then we sneaking the gold with the bosom and stuff like that. None of it worked. It was dumb. You know what? This whole trilogy is supposed to be about these dwarves, right? There are 8 of these dwarves that didn't have a single line. My phone's going off. Sorry, guys. There's 8 of these dwarves that didn't have a single line in this movie. But we have to give 15 or 20 minutes of screen time to Alfred. And there was no conclusion to him. At least let us see him die. And they didn't even give us that. I mean, it was just really bad. And anyway, the 5th major problem, this is more of an overarching thing, is that what this third film really did for me was something that I was starting to suspect in the second one, which was this should have been a 2-movie series. I remember when they announced that we're moving from 2 to 3 movies. Instead, I was actually excited because I thought, while The Hobbit is not that big of a book, there's so much in there that you could expand upon that it made sense. But what ended up happening was that this third film really felt like a third act. I mean, at least in the original Lord of the Rings films, right? The Return of the King was the third act of the overall story, sure. But it was still a self-sustaining movie that had a beginning, a middle, and the end. Whereas The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, while crazy fun to watch, and I like I said, I've seen it 3 times already, but it really did just feel like an extended third act to one film. It didn't have its own beginning, it didn't have its own middle, and it didn't have its own end. It just felt like it was unnecessary. And I didn't really feel that until I saw this third film. But now that I've seen it and I look back on the second film, I think they should have kept the first film as it was, but condensed the last 2 films into one film. And I think they could have done it and done it really well. Like I said, those are my 5 things. Once again, just to highlight, number 1, the Smaug resolution I don't think was done very well. Number 2, the Azog resolution wasn't done very well. Thirdly, the sudden turn to madness for Thorin Oakenshield. Number 4, the entire character of Alfred. And then number 5, the fact that it was really highlighted that this should have been a 2-film series instead of a 3-film series. Overall, still, I loved the movie. I had a really good time with it, but it falls well short of that masterpiece status that I think the original Lord of the Rings was because of these 5 things. And like any other film, there's other problems as well, but these are just the 5 major ones that really stood out to me. Anyway, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, not The Desolation of Smaug, sorry, The Battle of the Five Armies, and what you may have seen as some of the shortcomings. Even if you loved or hated the film, I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Anyway, that does it for me right now, coming to you from Rodney Brazeau's house, who's letting me record this here. Thanks a lot for joining me. I'll talk to you guys next time, and until then, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.